Welcome back to Spotlight with Britt, an inspirational podcast full of stories of perseverance, faith, and the ability to fail forward.
And we cannot continue to ask the government or the people to come in to save our young people. It's our responsibility to do that. And when I look at the fact and see that homicide is the number one cause of death for black males ages 1 to 44, that's why I started this really campaign of First and 45, because if a young black male gets to 45, he has a chance to be a grandparent.
In today's episode, I'll be interviewing Fitz Hill, the founder of First and 45, a nonprofit based in Little Rock, Arkansas, whose mission is to implement fact-based research and a results-oriented game plan to tackle social determinants contributing to the deaths and incarceration of black male youth in America. I hope you enjoy this episode and check out firstand45.com. That's 1STAND45.com for more information and how to get involved in the game. Welcome back to Spotlight with Britt. And my guest today is Mr. Fitz Hill.
Hey.
Man, I'm like, I feel nervous because you're on these things all the time with your Tuesday night deal. And I'm just like, I don't know, I'm not gonna be nervous.
No, just let it flow, let it go.
Look, that's right. Can't be occupied with the things that go wrong. And look, we've had several hiccups today, and we're still here.
Yep.
So, Fitz, I brought you here to talk a little bit about First and 45. I will tell you, the first time that we sat down and talked, when you told me about that book you were reading, and you said that it said, we don't have any need for the white supremacists anymore, the KKK and stuff, because we're killing each other.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just kind of like hit me like a ton of bricks, and it's like, but then all the research that you've done, I mean, years and the time that you've gone and spent with different people. I mean, it's just, I know we're kind of jumping right in, but tell me a high level overview of First and 45 and how we got to where we are today.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me. And this relationship came because you came out to our leadership in faith, which we were making a presentation with the mothers, I think, from who had lost children here in Little Rock, and Yolanda and Liz, both mothers who had kids' sons had been murdered here in the streets of Little Rock, and they were speaking to our group. And then we had Turtle and C Mac, Charlie Mac with us that were talking about their life and their experiences, which were leading to being the perpetrators of crime in our city at one time, and now working to rebuild their neighborhoods, one block at a time. And understanding that when I get to work with young people, that, their mindset is an aggregation of their experiences. And I liken it to the movie, you're familiar with Trading Places. I think that movie has such revelation, even though it's humor. It was a comedy, but you take a person who was on the street and you give him a mentor. You put him inside the place and Trading Place and see what happened.
Yeah.
Then you take a person who all his life, his family had groomed him for that, and then you put him outside of that, he can't make it. And so. Oftentimes, I look at First and 45 as an opportunity to share what we can do for youth who need their places traded, and who need mentors and people who believe in them in a way that they have never been believed in themselves. And I like in First and 45, I always reference the solutions to our problems is in our history. And that's why it's so important to know our Black history, because if you look back from 1865 to 1960 was probably the most progressive time in our communities, and that were done within the community itself. The churches, the moral climate, the Black family led the progress from coming out of slavery to the things that we captured. Education, specifically, when you look at the growth scores in literacy at that time with a lot less than the majority population had in society. And you realize we have enough to do what we need to do, and we cannot continue to ask the government or the people to come in to save our young people. It's our responsibility to do that. And when I look at the fact and see that homicide is the number one cause of death for black males ages 1 to 44, that's why I started this really campaign of First and 45, because if a young black male gets to 45, he has a chance to be a grandparent.
Right.
And that's what I am now in this transformation for me, which has now made me want to be 80 because I want to see my 2 grandsons graduate high school. So changed my life, changed my lifestyle, my habits, because having a father, a grandfather, an uncle, which that ecosystem is fractured if they don't make it to 45. Mm-hmm. And so that's the reason that I know it can be done, because it has been done before without anybody supporting or helping, or the government coming in and intervening and say, we're going to do this. No, this has to be done from inside out, not outside in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the different things that you do and the plan that you have for First and 45 for the different programs, and just like you said, the mentorship. I mean, I know you're kind of building up, the army behind you to get ready, because you're just one person. I mean, you can only do so much. I know that you are fueled by the mission that God has put on your heart of what you're supposed to do. And so I have nothing but just at most admiration for you. And I can appreciate what you're doing, because I know that when the message starts getting out there further and further, that more people are going to want to back you and be behind what you're doing, because you're right. Like if there's nobody to step in and intervene and help guide these young people, then they're just going to go down the wrong path. And then who's going to step in and fill, the shoes like you have, or I do. And and I know we talked before about like the education, there's hardly any African-American teachers in school, especially males in school anymore. And you said at one point they used to be like a big.
Oh, no. Well, if you go back, representation of nature especially is huge. But if you go back and look at the segregated schools and the progress that was made, because the moral climate in the community, and if you look at how the civil rights movement was manifested through our country, it was from the churches. All right. When you look at Dr. King, think about going when we're talking about the busing crisis with Rosa Parks and when Dr. King going there and the injunction that when she sat there and got arrested and went into the jail, and Dr. King came in and decided that, hey, we're no longer going to take being a second-class citizen and having to sit at the back of the bus. And so until you treat us as human beings, here's a movement that started taking that we're going to sacrifice. Well, all movements are founded in sacrifice. So the only way that the bus crisis changed was the sacrifice, because Dr. King went to the judge and he went to the church and told all the churches not to ride any buses. They were the carpool. All right. So now they carpool. So what happened? It hit them economically. Dr. King got called to court and they gave injunction against carpooling and said, if you carpool, you're going to get arrested. All right. Well, that's history. So now, if anybody would have broken that and got on the bus, then it never would have changed. So Dr. King told the judge, probably, and people don't realize, probably one of the most profound statements that was made. He said, you can give us an injunction against the cars, but you can't give us an injunction against our feet, because we all know we're going to walk. That commitment to sacrifice, and they walked everywhere. And eventually came back and they outlawed the second class or sitting in the back in the buses. But there was one other thing that I think that we looked at to be empowered to build safer communities is the economic demise that has taken place through integration. When we had Black Wall Street and those type of things, which gave Black business owners as mentors into the communities, and the byproduct of integration, it had good intentions, but all the consequences, I don't think we realize what would happen, because just like now in Little Rock, I think you have only 4 African-American owned businesses that were open prior to integration that are still remain open today. All right. Wow. And so just think about what would happen. All right. Black Wall Street. All right. What had happened? So those things we knew. I was just in Tulsa. We knew those type of things that took place during that time. But the economic empowerment, and I say that because the community had the opportunity to go start on bus line. Well, that's entrepreneurial, rather than trying to write somebody else's bus.
Yeah.
All right. So that's the thing, that we have to look at, and understanding where we've come from. My great-great-grandfather, Watson Hill, born a slave, 1828. My problems were his dreams. So this is what he wanted for his great-great-great-grandson. So I can't sit here, I'm free, and my grandfather's name was Freeman. They named him that because he was free. You go on the tombstone today, it's Freeman. He was a free man. So I'm a free man. And so when I look at what's going on in our country, the lives have been lost for the freedom that we have. And when I see our young brothers killing each other, it hurts my heart.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just, yeah, they always say you're a product of your raising, right? But I mean, honestly, like, individuals can be impacted, like what you're talking about. They can be impacted from their circumstance at that moment, but they have a choice.
Yep.
They have a choice to go left or go right. And every day you wake up with a new chance to make a choice and make a difference.
Well, it's the influences of what I call a social determinants. And,
Right.
And so, let me say this, though. The more you're around negative, the more negative you're going to be. Okay? So what you have to do, oftentimes, when you don't have that supportive community, as was in what we're talking about prior to integration, when you don't have these supporting networks, and so you feel like you're by yourself, you don't have the community support, and then the community once was a neighborhood is now a hood. All the businesses are no longer there because it's not safe. Can't remember what business it was. I was in California, Oakland, the hamburger place, or one of the prominent hamburger places. Anyway, yeah, In-N-Out. Yeah, so yeah. They were closing because the crime was so bad in that neighborhood. So just imagine, and it was profitable.
Yeah.
But it wasn't safe. All right. And so just imagine what's transpiring in when they're making a decision. Well, this neighborhood, our employees are not safe coming to this environment. Well, why did that happen? So we have to go back and look and really understand, the root causes of what has led to this epidemic that has allowed homicide to be the leading cause of death for black males aged 1 to 44, and the second leading cause of death for black females aged 1 to 19, which in most cases, the black male is a perpetrator of killing non-black children. And it's asinine to think that that's permissible. And there's nobody speaking out against it. We'll have in October breast cancer. Peak. All over football teams, everybody's wearing pink to bring awareness to this. And First and 45 is in the same vein to bring awareness to this deadly homicidal virus that's killing 30 black males a day in the United States of America. So if you look at those numbers and count them up, we're at war.
Yeah.
All right? We're at war because I don't know if many people realize that more black males have been murdered in the United States since 1950 to 2019 that have been killed combined in World War I, II, the Vietnam War, the Korean War, and Desert Storm. Now think about that. So that whole ecosystem of community that's built around men, uncle, brothers is destroyed because of this homicidal virus that continues to spread. And unfortunately, you don't hear about it unless it's really four ways that black males are murdered. Number one, it's killed by the police. And number two, killed by somebody outside their race, our race. Number three, it's a prominent athlete. And number four, it's a prominent rapper. Now, if those four individuals are murdered, it's a national story. But if they don't fit in that category, Brittany, you never hear about it. And that's why today, data tells us 30 black males will be murdered, but you won't hear about it on CNN unless one fits in those 4 categories.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, like I said, the research that you have found, and just the time that you've spent going in to some of these prisons and talking to these men, I mean, like, that in itself shows your dedication and determination to do something, to start and let people know, look, I hear you, but let's put action behind those words.
And let's learn from their experiences. Nelson Mandela said, one of the most powerful quotes that I hang on to: if you lose and you learn why you lost, you win. If you lose and you don't learn why you lost, you're gonna lose again. Mm-hmm. All right. So it's okay to fail. All right. Learn from your failure, and that's what Nelson was saying. But what happened if you're making mistakes and you continue to make the same mistakes, you're not going to get any better.
Yeah.
So what can we learn from the behavior of, for example, from the 47 youth in Little Rock from October 22nd to December 22nd of 2022 to December 31st of 2023? What can we learn from the 47 juveniles charged as adults for violent crimes in Little Rock, 16 of them homicides? What can we learn to say now? It's just like COVID. It's like a virus. So what they said, what we go back and say? Well, majority of the black race that succumbed to COVID-19, they were deficient in vitamin D. I had all these conditions. Right? Mm-hmm. Well, it's the same thing as we break this down for this homicidal virus. All right. So looking at what I can tell you right now, of those, I don't know them by name, but I can tell you with a great degree of certainty, I can profile them and tell you, what has happened that led to that, to creating a homicidal mindset. Because if it wasn't murder, it was first-degree battery or attempted murder, which you tried to kill somebody. So what creates that for a juvenile? That's not normal, Brittany.
Right.
All right. What gets in a 14-year-old? I've talked to 14-year-olds in juvenile detention facility for attempted murder, 14. That's not normal. Mm-hmm. And for us to think that I can't blame that child. That child didn't ask to come into this world. This child has been traumatized for a 14-year-old to pull out a weapon and say, I'm going to kill you. That kid has so much trauma in his heart that we have to try to rehabilitate it. So what's wrong? But see, we have to look further at that fact. What happened? That's why first and 45 was broken down into what I call first and 10 as a first down. Well, 0 to 10, how can we get this young person to 10 without those negative social determinants that they're facing? Well, because oftentimes what the data will tell us, a black male born to a teenage mother in poverty, upon conception, when the sperm hit the egg, has a 50% chance of going to prison. Now think about that.
That is not even in this world yet.
That's right.
Already.
And then just recently, I had a mother on First and 45 show 2 weeks ago, who she said she became pregnant, and her son was murdered here last year, and she said that she knew that when the doctor, she was hoping it was going to be a girl, because she said she knew that if she had a son, his odds are he was going to either be dead or go to prison. Well, that's already, and she said, and it happened. So we as a community, we have to work to, tackle those social determinants because they are burying our sons and filling the prison cells. And in America, our approach to fighting crime is building prisons. Mm-hmm. Because in America, our prison population is quadrupled since 1980, the early 80s, from less than 300,000 to as high as 2.5 million. And so that's our approach to the solution, and we can't stop it unless we turn off the faucets.
Mm-hmm. As well as what you're doing.
That's what we're trying to do. And understanding in turning off the faucets that it's important to realize, and it's something that I like to always quote because to make sure it's right, because it's hard for people to understand when you look at the pregnancy, what I just mentioned to you, okay? The poverty is a huge issue, but it perpetuates itself. It's a cycle.
Yeah.
Over and over if you don't fix it.
You're going to break it.
You got to break it.
You have to have the will
yeah.
and determination to do it.
And a supporting system and the role model and mentors, because it's hard to pull up boots. It's hard to pull up bootstraps when you don't have boots. So that's why, let's give you, hey, I'm trying to give you a pair of boots to pull up. But it's hard when you have been born into this situation. And then check this out. It's a study by the Department of Health and Human Services revealed that a 50% increase in the monthly value of the food stamp benefits led to a 117% increase in crime rates of young black men. Now think about that. So now, because see, it stacks itself. Number one, pregnancy, okay? Poverty, all right? Children, all right? Now I need stamps, okay? Now look what happened. Well, here's what the data. So what we gotta do, if we just continue building, we're building prisons based on this data, we're building prisons. You're paying us back for giving you welfare. Based on this number. Mm-hmm. All right, so numbers don't lie. So what we have to do as a community is say, hey, something's wrong. Look, that's what we do in the jungle. If there's an endangered species, we go and say, we fix it. People on TV saying, save the elephants. Well, yeah, exactly. That's what Bursting 45 is about. It's about save our sons now.
Yeah, and then so SOS, Save Our Sons Now.
Yep.
But then you also have, since you said, I'm going to go ahead and transition to this. You got Mob.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Black Sun Standing and Still.
And we got to continue. That's a process that we have to continue to massage and bring out, because it's very tough. I mean, when you see the most, last year we had one of our best meetings, at the church, and I think when you look at the numbers that in Pulaski County that you're probably having, last year, 2 years ago, 119 murders in Pulaski County, and when you look at what's going on in Jefferson County. And so, when you look, and Homicide was modeled after Mothers Against Drunk Driving MAD, because that was a movement that you take. Susan G. Race for the Cure. You look at what those two movements have done.
Just those two?
Just those two movements. And to understand how they were able to bring awareness to a crisis. MAD decreased vehicular homicide by 50% in the United States of America by bringing awareness. Before MAD started, there were on average 21,000 vehicular homicides in the United States of America. After about 20 years, because of their awareness campaign, it decreased by 50%. Breast cancer awareness, the Cure the Pink, all these things, what it is that it teaches what do we do. You go in, you get screened. Okay, so it's telling you what to do, and that's what First and 45. It's the game plan, that you have to execute. Hey, if you eat wrong and eat bad, it don't matter. If you don't get screened, it don't matter. Well, same thing here. If you have the information and you don't apply it, you don't run the game plan, it won't matter. You know what I'm saying? So if you know better, we hope you do better, and understanding that we must change the moral climate in our community if we truly want transformation. And I know we're in a different time in our society right now, but I just have to say this publicly because I am a man of faith. If we can't change the moral climate in our nation, we have no chance to stop this epidemic.
I mean, without somebody, though, standing up to tell about it, then it's just going to keep happening.
No, exactly. And when you can't understand the sin issue that's tied into it, it's just like, for example, God, everything comes with a manual. I want you to think about that.
Yeah.
If you get a Tesla car, you don't get a manual from Sorrento. A Kia.
Yeah.
It has a specific manual. Everything. If you get an iPhone or you get an upgrade, don't you get instructions? And at least if you don't, where can you go to find out how to do everything? YouTube. Okay? There is a game plan to everything. Why do people think we do not have to have a game plan for our lives? And we just do what we want to. And what happens, this is the consequences of it, because we don't. The Bible is the game plan for man and woman. All right? And when you look at what's going on in our society, in America, you know, we're not winning in saving our lives. And we're dying each and every day. The school shootings, just every day. And that's a moral dilemma. It was so interesting. I read one time when somebody said, "Lord, please stop the shootings in our school." He said, "I used to, but you took me out."
Right. Yeah. And I mean, you know, here are the statistics, but I mean, like a quarter maybe of people actually still attend church.
No, the number for the first time last year, the Pew Research did a study, and it said that here it is right here. America's membership in churches declined in 2020, dropping below 50% for the first time in the Gallup's 8-decade trend. In 2020, 47% of Americans said they belong to some type of house of worship.
Okay, I was a little off at 40, but still
below 50%.
And you know, like I haven't shared as much, and you know, like the faith stuff as I had initially intended on this podcast. But you know, for those people that are listening, you know, either they'd had a connection from a guest that I've had on, you know, is still relatively new.
You're right.
But you know, I feel like the people that I'm bringing on, they have a faith and a spiritual testimony you guys to tell, and all the things that you've done. I mean, you know, you were a coach here at Arkansas. You played for Arkansas too.
No, I played for Ouachita Baptist University.
Oh, that's OU, my man.
Yeah.
But then you went to San Jose State.
Yeah.
And then you came back here and you were president over at Arkansas Baptist College. And I mean, you just continue to do things to help inspire and lead men, you know, and people in general. Like, I mean, I've heard you, you know, speak and all that. But I mean, for everybody that's listening and people that may be watching, if, you know, they're on YouTube, Fitz has a newsletter. That's what he's been referencing the few times that he's said something about, you know, the different statistics and stuff. And this newsletter, we're going to be rolling out the game plan soon.
Yep.
But we've had like 6 or 7 newsletters, I think, that we put out. And then all that stuff is content created by you. It's all written by you. We have the firstand45.com, 1stand45.com. It's got some links and everything. Obviously, this is your full-time thing.
Yeah.
You've got to have the resources coming from somewhere. And I know we don't want to go ask for a handout, you know, but I mean, I'm hopeful that through just this little bit of conversation, you know, that we're having, and obviously and more that we're going to have and have you back on.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm hoping that it's going to shed some light and get people to kind of think a different way. Right. You know, you get in your regular routine of life and you think about me and family, you know, like what's in front of you all the time. But for people, as another piece of this, is wanting to lead people that want to be more involved and grow their community and do something for something bigger than themselves.
Correct.
You know, like that's things that, like for what you do, you know, I feel like that's a great way to be able to do it. And even if, you know, necessarily they're not able to be a mentor, you know, or they don't have an event coming up where they can host you and have you come and speak and a fundraiser or whatever. I mean, there's tons of ways to still get involved. And I know, you know, the work that you've been putting in here in Arkansas specifically, and Pulaski and Jefferson counties, working on those 2 areas because they're the most crime affected in the state. And then
bringing awareness to it. That's the initial rollout of First and 45 is to bring awareness to this crisis, because otherwise it's not something that's discussed, and I don't think people want to talk about it for various reasons. But you know, it is what it is, and any other epidemic we talk about, when I drive down the roads, I see everything about opioids, and I see this kids up here, you know, that's dying, and I applaud the efforts to bring that crisis to the surface. And just as I'm doing this one. So, you know, because no death is good death. I mean, and so we're working to help this specific epidemic, because, Brittany, understanding that 2% of the population in America is responsible for 56% of the homicides. So by working on this specific crisis with this specific population would stand to decrease the murder rate in the United States of America by over 50%. Now think about that. So your greatest return comes in your smallest group of people that could make our country safer. I'm baffled that that has not taken place, and I'm really questioning, does America get enough of that?
Well, I can tell you, I know quite a few people that you met with and people that I've talked to about it, that they're interested and wanting to do what they can to help. And so, again, I mean, it all's going to go back to get on the website, get the information, subscribe to get the newsletter.
Correct.
We'll get you caught up. And then how can you get involved? But at the same time, I mean, at the end of the day, like, we just have to realize that there's a lot going on outside of us, but what kind of person do you want to be? And who do you want to reach out to, and how do you want to get involved? So it may not be with us, but it's getting involved with somebody and doing something for the greater good of the community.
You just said something, and I often tell, because when you look at these children, you look at the young adults and who make bad choices, and then once you can get them to a stage where you've been able to rehabilitate and working with them, and then once you start thinking constructively and positively, then I challenge them, be who you wish you had. I mean, that's so important, because see, oftentimes when they see somebody, we were here in a juvenile detention facility, and Turtle had spoke with me, and soon afterwards, Turtle told them how Coach Hill impacted his life, and then the young man, 14-year-old, came up to me and said, "Will you do for me what you did for him?" All right, so to me, that's now turn on the light. Now, if you can keep that light on, light takes over darkness. That's what Jesus said. Light turn, but that light can go out if you don't constantly put light in there. You got to put work into it. And so it's kind of like I was counseling a person who had been traumatized, working with this individual, and had extreme trauma. And finally, this individual was able to share the traumatizing effect of her life. And that was, so she had been dark this whole time. You have to give that. And so the first time there was a little hole of light in this deal. And so, but the more that you're able to talk, the brighter the light becomes, and the more you're able to absorb good in that evil. Yeah. And that's the same way with our boys. I mean, they're hard because the environment has created this mindset, and they have to uphold this. And it's a survival tactic. I mean, for the survival of the fittest. And if you live in that community, if they think you're scared, then you're going to be a weak vessel, and they're not going to allow that to happen. And so those are type of things that are leading to just the constant barrages of death that we see in our community, because we're fighting for respect, which often comes from neglect.
You always say something, impart some kind of knowledge with me every time we meet, and this conversation does not fail to do not. To find out more and to stay involved in the game and our conversation, every Tuesday, 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
Go to YouTube, go to LinkedIn on your profile. 93.3, they can tune in. I hear them fish on the way home sometime.
Right.
And so that's where to be. Again, we're going to have you back. We're going to talk about some more stuff. I don't even need to ask you about the nonprofit that you like, because that's been the whole thing.
Yeah, right.
And if we sat here and talked about the struggles that you've gone through in your life, that's a whole other episode in itself, probably 3 episodes.
Well, that makes you strong. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And God, like I said, you have to have the crucifixion. The crucifixion have to come before the resurrection.
Right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. God bless you, and I look forward to coming back.
I look forward to having you back.
All right.
All right. So whatever time of day it is, I hope that it is blessed for you. Catch us next time on the next episode of Spotlight with Britt. Thank you very much. See you next time.